Do you find it hard to explain to friends and family what you now do? Are you wasting valuable time by attempting to figure out challenges on your own? We have created a community for ex-corporate people running their own business who want to live a life they love whilst giving back to their community. This is the Build, Live, Give show. We bring you first-hand experiences of guests going through many of the struggles you face each and every day. We get real with no corporate BS. And now your host, Paul Higgins.
Welcome to the Build, Live, Give show. I'm Paul Higgins and I'm your show host. And today we have Ursula Hogben from LegalVision. Ursula started her career in law and then went into corporate finance. She worked for some of the most prestigious and biggest names in the world and worked across multiple countries. She had a fantastic career. Then she had twins and made the life-changing decision to start her own law firm rather than stay in corporate. She had some help with some great mentors, and she certainly talked about what that help was and how supportive the startup community is. She also gives some excellent advice on 3 essential legal elements that you need to know when starting your own business. So this is definitely well worth the listen. So please get your pens and paper ready, and I'll now hand you over to Ursula Hogben from LegalVision. If you're enjoying listening to these journeys, just letting you know we have a community for ex-career people running profitable businesses just like you. It's called BLG Boost. You get exclusive access to a forum of like-minded peers answering your most pressing questions 24/7. You get specific action tips to solve your most common challenges. You get trusted suppliers to remove lost time. You also get access to member exclusive offers to save you money. You also get access to myself as a coach directly on a one-on-one basis. You get weekly videos from global experts. And finally, you get monthly webinars solving topics mentioned in popular threads. If you're tired of being alone and want to rapidly grow your dream business, go to buildlivegive.com/BLG Boost. This link is in the show notes. Please check it out. Okay, I will see you inside. Welcome, Ursula Hogben, to the Build, Live, Give show. It's going to be great to find out more about you and your background today, but why don't you just start with a bit of your backstory?
Hi, Paul. Thanks very much for inviting me along. I really appreciate it. My backstory is somewhat traditional for a lawyer and a business lawyer. So I went to university. I studied psychology law. So it's probably a bit unusual potentially for a lawyer.
Yes.
And in fact, the fact that I studied psychology has been very interesting for all of my career, which is good. And then I went into corporate law quite soon. So I actually grew up in Tasmania and then moved up to Sydney, where I did have some family, and worked at Baker McKenzie for about 8 years, and then at Merrill Lynch for about 8 years. Now, Baker McKenzie, I was focused on corporate law and helping companies raise capital, buy each other out, and sell. I had the opportunity to work in Hong Kong, Singapore, Indonesia, Thailand, and spent some time in New York, which was fantastic. Then at Baker McKenzie, Merrill Lynch, had a very similar focus, but I was assisting the bank rather than a whole range of different clients, and we were working on our deals. So a lot of capital raising and a lot of buying and selling companies as well. And really enjoyed my time in big corporate, worked with some really smart, inspiring people and did some fantastic deals, but then did have a yearning to be assisting the smaller companies that were sitting on the other side of the deal rather than assisting the large company or the large investment bank.
Excellent. And we'll certainly go further into that soon. But what's something outside of work, something in your personal life that your friends and family know about you, but the BLG audience wouldn't?
Well, one thing that not many people might know is I was a Bondi lifesaver for quite a few years. In fact, that was after I came back from overseas and I wanted to throw myself back into the swing of Sydney. So I became a Bondi lifesaver at 30-ish plus, which was great fun. And along the way, including doing the course, I met my husband. So that was a lovely surprise as well.
Excellent. And you're actually the second guest I've had on from Baker McKenzie. We had Yuri Timp on, who used to run the legal processing centre in the Philippines. I don't know if you ever came across Yuri.
I think I did. Yes. Yep. Great guy. And really, yes, did great work with that build. Yes.
Yeah, well, I actually, each time I go to the Philippines, I stay with him and his family, and he's become a very close friend. But there you go. That's the second person on. As far as if I go back, you had a brilliant career, and as I said to you in the pre-setup, I was exhausted just reading your profile on how much stuff you've done, let alone living your life. You've just lived a very impactful and full life. But what was sort of that defining moment for you? Take me to that moment where you thought, you know what, I will jump and go from large, steady corporate over to help startups more.
Mm-hmm. It had been something I was thinking about for some time, because we in the large corporates and large investment banks, we know what we're doing very well. We know how we do it. But the companies that we were dealing with, capital raising is new to them, mergers and acquisitions is new to them. They were the ones who really needed the expert lawyers. But it's harder for a smaller company, often it was harder for a smaller company to access an expert lawyer than it was for a larger company. So I felt that I would have more impact if I was helping the smaller companies. But there's never one particular time to make such a large change. And so really some of the impetus was when I took some time off work to have my twins. And that really made me realise how much I wanted to be helping the small and newer businesses and help them grow.
Yeah, and look, I've had a couple of people in from either the legal or finance industry that said it was quite difficult to come back from having children and work. It was sort of like you're either fully, absorbed by work or you're not. Was that a similar thing that you found in making that choice for you?
Yes, because the nature of large corporate deals, investment banking and capital raising is very kind of all-encompassing. But it was particularly that feeling of, well, if I don't do it now, when will I? This is a really good time to pursue what does feel like the next part of my life and use all the things I've learned for a different purpose.
Yeah, and what sort of helped you other than practical experience, which I'm sure all of us go through? Because if I take a step back, I sort of had a similar background, and just before I left corporate, I was doing major M&A, so I was sort of sitting on the client side.
Yes.
Of what you were doing, and I must admit it was day and night from when I left and started my own business. What was some of the help that you got, and what were some of the ways that you learnt the nuances of running your own business?
Other entrepreneurs are incredibly supportive. I'm kind of so used to the level of support we give each other now, but taking a step back, people are incredibly generous with their time and their support. So I would say there were three main groups. One was just other people in business generally, and what issues they'd faced and how they'd solved those issues. Then particularly other lawyers, because there's considerable requirements around how you actually set up a legal practice, which were new to me. And there were a couple of lawyers in particular, including one who was my mentor, who were just incredibly generous with the practicalities of starting a law firm. And then third, just other business networks. So quite early on, I joined some really good business networks, local network, Women in Business Network, and it made such a difference hearing other people's stories about the issues that they'd faced and how they'd solved them. It really made all the difference, especially in that first year or two.
Yes, and I know we've had many people that have come onto the podcast and just talk about the fact that their family and friends and the colleagues that they had, mean all the best, but they just haven't had that experience, and they're looking from a completely different point of view. Is that sort of experience that you had?
My friends when I was in big corporate were on the whole employed by big businesses as well. And it comes with its own set of stresses and challenges, but it's quite different to running your own business. People, on the whole, it seemed like quite an odd thing to do, to leave an investment bank to set up my own company, which was Hogben Group back then. People were kind of pleasantly supportive, but I don't think anyone you don't really know what you're getting yourself into until you've done it. So it was actually, while everyone was very supportive, it was really other people running their own business that made quite a difference to me.
Yeah, and I often think back on my journey. I know you've got twins, but when we had our first child, and it's never quite the same until you've actually had your own child, till they go, oh, now I know what they mean, or
honestly about
that depth of experience.
Yeah, it's a really good thing to compare it to. You think you know what you're getting yourself into when you have children, but of course you have to live it. Exactly the same as running a business. And I did consider, well, I could do an MBA first, or I could just launch and learn as I go. And just launching and taking the time to learn different things as I needed to learn them, I think has been fantastic for me.
Yeah, and I think it's a great point, because I think in corporate you get rewarded for being precise. And I know certainly from you with your legal background and doing major M&A work, certainly that case where I know one of the hardest things for a lot of guests that come on here and for myself was that you actually do have to take more risks, and you've got to go into situations that are completely unnatural, uncommon, and learn the hard way. And some people really struggle with that. How did you find that different way of playing the game versus your corporate career versus this new career?
Yes. No, it's a really good point, because there was so much change. What I tried to do was listen to what my clients wanted in terms of delivery and the experience with me. So did they want to speak to me by phone? Did they want to have a video conference, not just a face-to-face meeting? Did they want that contract to be 5 pages, not 50? Did they want it to have a summary table at the front, not, all of the key details embedded throughout? How did they want to deal with me, and how did they want their legal product to look? I was really open to what my clients wanted. But then the core principles of legal research, legal rigor, they were kind of mine to deal with behind the scenes and maintain my own high standards, even though I was delivering legal services in quite a different way.
Yeah, and the analogy I've once heard is that, you've really got two bosses. Corporate, you've got, your internal, and then you've got your customer, and sometimes those worlds don't align. What I love about running a small business like you have is that you really are more customer centric, because you don't have all that internal politics and all the second component, which sometimes can conflict. Was that sort of what you found in your journey?
Yes, look, absolutely. And, I started myself just as Hogben Group, and that was starting a small law firm to bring basically ex-big business legal skills to smaller businesses. But then very soon on, I met Lachlan and Evan, who were running LegalVision, and that started as automated legal documents and then moved to a legal marketplace. And then I joined them to bring in the law firm. But although we had 3 different backgrounds, in terms of kind of tech, law and business, and then me law, we all shared the same incredibly strong focus on client experience, and that's been the real kind of north point of the compass, which is fantastic, because you've got to have shared values when you're co-founding as well.
Excellent. And going into the next section, which is the build section. So when you walk into a new client meeting or walk into a networking event, how do you describe what you do, what LegalVision does?
I say we provide commercial and corporate law from experts in a friendly, efficient, innovative way, and often at fixed fee prices.
And when someone says, what do you mean by innovation? Normally law and innovation isn't said in the one word or the one sentence. What do you mean by innovation?
It partly depends on how much detail they want, but from a client experience perspective, we're innovative in that you don't have to come and see us. You can deal with us however you want. If you want to you want to interact with us by email, by video conference, by phone, however you want to deal with us is completely fine with us. That's one of the main kind of client experience points. Second, we're flexible in terms of how we deliver what you need. If you tell me it's got to look like this, or it's got to be this length, if you've got drivers for how you need the output to look, let me know, because we're innovative about meeting your needs, not telling you how it has to be done. And then look, behind the scenes, the business process from marketing to sales to doing the legal work to our operations is really quite different, and it would depend on who I was speaking with and whether they'd want any of that detail. But for example, traditional law firm is roughly like a pyramid in terms of a triangle where you've got a number of partners at the top who often tend to be responsible for the lead generation and for doing the client work, or at least managing the client work. Whereas we've found not only our clients, but our team often has a better experience if we actually separate out those processes. So a team for marketing, a team for sales, the legal team focused on the legal work, and then we have a great tech and operations team as well. So that's one way that we're quite different behind the scenes.
Great. And as far as I know that, the old joke around 6-minute increments for lawyers, and I'm sure you've heard that plenty of times, but under a new model, does it mean that you make, the same amount of earnings margin, EBIT margin, you make less because the model's different? How has that sort of played out based on what you forecast and predicted versus what's actually happened?
It's a really good question, and the answer is it's so different, because traditionally in a law firm, because people are billing their time, at least you have a direct correspondence between the time someone worked and what they're going to be charging. We deliberately have different people doing different things. So, for example, our sales team aren't trying to do legal work at the same time. Our marketing team aren't trying to do legal work at the same time. So for a start, people are focused on what they're best at and what they love doing. And then for the legal work, we do it on a fixed fee basis because we just think that's the right way to do it. We should know how long it takes you to create a development agreement or an IP license or an employment agreement. And we should basically bear the risk of getting it right. But then from a revenue perspective, we look at, obviously how many matters people do rather than how long they sit on their seat each day. And our legal team love that because you're rewarded for being efficient, and there's no benefit to any concept of face time. If you're efficient and you get through your work in a really high quality way quickly, then fantastic. You just get to go home earlier. So there's a direct reward for being efficient, which is great.
Excellent. And who are your ideal clients?
That's a good question because it's changed over time. So when we started, we were particularly focused on helping sole traders and smaller companies because they were the ones that didn't have lawyers and they needed legal help. And that's everything from a new business without particularly many growth plans through to a startup that has fast growth plans, is capital raising quickly, has considerable expansion plans. But what we realise is we're really good at doing kind of day-to-day legal work for much larger companies as well. So we now assist the medium-sized, small to medium businesses, the kind of businesses of core clients will say 0 to 20 employees. Now we have many clients at the kind of 20 to 100 employee size, and also increasingly larger companies who want certain types of work done in a really straightforward, efficient, high quality way. So it's increasingly more about the type of work we do rather than just our clients. So as a nutshell answer is ideal clients are businesses that want the particular things that we offer. So assistance starting up, assistance raising capital, assistance with leasing, employment, IP, IT, franchising, property law. The size of the client isn't so important to us anymore. It's more about what kind of law do you need and how can we assist.
Great. And you see so many different business owners across different industries, etc., especially in the startup space. What are some of the key learnings you could give from sitting from a legal point of view? If someone's listening to this or a startup owner or a startup founder and they haven't really done anything from a legal perspective, what are a couple of the key things that you'd say they should be spending their legal dollar on?
Yeah, excellent. And look, we get asked this quite a lot because we actually like to help people work out what they don't need to spend money on until later. So one key thing would be think about, do I want to be a sole trader or do I want to set up a company? Because once your business is up and running, it's kind of expensive and cumbersome to transfer. So think about being a company quite early on. It gives you legal protection. It gives you a bit more tax planning flexibility. Many of our clients move to being a company in the fairly early stages. And then a second thing is protect your intellectual property, because that's really what makes your business unique. So if you're paying third parties to help you develop intellectual property, whether it's logos, code, software, products, whatever is being developed, make sure there's contracts in place so that you own the intellectual property. That's really the heart of your business at the start. And then third, I would say you need some kind of legal agreement between you and your clients or customers. That's your key interface. Get some key terms in place, because the protection that will give you and the certainty between you and your client will save you so much time if anything goes wrong. Half the reason, one of the main benefits for our clients of having legal terms is not that they ever should be suing on them. It's just that it gives everyone clarity and certainty. So rather than have a dispute, you just say, oh, that's covered in clause 3 or that's covered there, and explain to them how it works. As an entrepreneur, saving time becomes really quickly more important than saving money. So we try to set things up that save you time in the short term and the long run.
Yeah, great point. I think also shareholder agreements. I've seen that a lot of partners get so excited, rush into something, and then unfortunately, not all partnerships end well.
Well, and look, it's a simple. It's rather than think about when a co-founding relationship might break up. It's more to think, are we going to do this until we die? No. So at some stage there'll be an exit. Let's plan for that exit now. Whatever that exit might look like, whatever that dispute might look like, let's just settle it now.
And as a partner or one of the key people behind LegalVision, what are some of the key challenges you face at the moment in expanding your business?
Look, the process of obtaining new clients is always really interesting. We are learning more and building stronger relationships with larger clients, which is fantastic because there's so much that can be done around them doing things differently, but it is a different process than obtaining kind of very innovative, smaller clients online. So one would be obtaining new clients. Second would be constantly maintaining our high quality and our speed, because that's really a core promise for LegalVision, that there's certainty on price, on quality and on speed, and we have to deliver on that every day, basically. And then another really interesting challenge as we grow is we've got about 70 team members now, and it's a really crucial time for culture and maintaining our culture across different team members, different offices. So we've got a real focus on making sure everyone's across our values and that we've got a really strong culture.
And what are the impacts if you don't get those three things right? What materialises if you don't get them right?
Oh, look, fantastic client service, high legal quality, and a great culture are just three cornerstones for us. A great culture, the difference in your team, if people are really engaged and really excited about what they're doing, it's just exponential. It's not kind of like double. It's hard to measure how people are so much better if they're engaged and enthusiastic. So we really want that great culture. Legal quality is just absolutely important, and because we're still growing, we're still assisting existing clients and getting new clients. So they're all really important for building, for continual growth.
And in this question, I normally ask of you being one of the founders, but I'll just turn it a little given your experience. But commercial wage, so a lot of people leave corporate, they build their own business, they have a great lifestyle, that, everything's going great, but they're just not pulling out the cash that they would love. And often I get asked by people either investing or people that are looking for investment, should I take a salary off the table, or should I effectively, bootstrap as much as I can and not get the investors to pay for a salary? What's your view and experience on that topic?
In terms of salary, if we want great founders who've already got industry experience, then people need money to live. If the thought that I can't take any salary at all, so I won't start my own business, that thinking needs to change. If you're 10 years plus into your industry, you've got family commitments, money commitments, etc., and taking a certain salary is required for you to launch and grow, then build it in. We're not talking extravagant salaries, but we're talking the ability to live and pay your mortgage and meet whatever your commitments are. So work out the salary you need to live and pay yourself, because otherwise this business isn't going to get off the ground. Beyond that, we, like all other founders, were very lean in terms of our own salaries at the start, because every dollar we spent on other things was helping grow the business. But ultimately, the founders, particularly in those early years, are the heart of the business, and the founders have got to be able to live sufficiently to be able to focus their efforts on growing the business. So pay yourself a salary that's sufficient to live, so then you can focus on growing the business.
Yeah, look, I agree, and I think there's a lot of investors out there. I'm hoping when they listen to this, they take heed of that, because I know there's it seems like a wind of change, which is what you're talking about, yes. But I still find that there's not enough people that take that view, and certainly people in our community leaving corporate. You've got lots of living expenses that you don't want to eat into your savings all the time. So yeah, totally agree.
Investors just need to be conscious of what different people bring. I mean, what the level of experience and knowledge and ability to execute and get things done of someone more senior is different to someone more junior, and then take the salary into consideration as well. You're basically helping compensate them for all the expertise that they already bring. But it's also realistic. Do you want them to be able to start a business or not?
Yes, and the next question's around Jeremy, who's your partner.
Yes.
When he listens to this podcast, what would you like to say about the support he's given you as you've grown this fantastic business?
Oh, look, thank you for letting me even try in the first place. We both contribute to the family income, so it was certainly a consideration that I was going to be leaving a corporate salary. So thank you so much for even letting me try, because that's a really, really gracious, kind thing to have done. And thank you for the huge range of support, particularly around the parenting support, because we're both parents and we're both really equal parents. And our twins have these two excellent parents who both know them really well and are really involved in their lives. And that means so much to me and our twins as well.
And just on that, do you think you've spent more time with the twins given this career change than what you would have if you had stayed in corporate?
It's a really good question. And the answer is yes. Yes, with the twins, but it comes at other expenses. So in a corporate office, it's quite long days in the office. Being in business for yourself, it can be shorter days in the office, so it's more time with your children, but you're invariably logging on afterwards. So obviously it's possible to start your own business and not log on in the evenings, but there's a portion of getting the actual work done, and then there's working in the business and working on the business. And many of us spend some time with our children, then log on again in the evening, and that is a way of life for some entrepreneurs. So more time with my children, but also a lot of time afterwards as well with my business.
The next section is the live section. And as I said before, you seem to fit so much into your life. And for those listeners, we'll give you Ursula's LinkedIn profile and you can just see how prolific she is. But how do you fit it all in? Just tell us a little bit about your daily routines and what helps make you successful and fit so much in a great life.
Thank you. I am still learning in terms of being any kind of role model. I don't think I am, but just quite frankly, how I do things. Partly good things like trying to do brief meditations, keep my mind focused on what's actually important and where's best to spend my energy at any particular time. So some time spent actually interacting with my team and with clients, other time very focused on projects. But then also things like, not watching particularly much TV and spending too much time on work in the evenings. To me, that just is what it is. And I do a lot of learning and I enjoy it. But, everyone's kind of got to find their own balance in terms of what suits them. So I do spend quite a lot of time. I also spend quite a lot of time at networking events and meeting the kind of people that are our clients, but I really enjoy it. So it is work time, but it's something I really enjoy as well.
And the next section's around the give section. And what's a cause that you're passionate about and why?
I've been passionate about women in business since I started. In fact, even before, when I was at Baker McKenzie and Merrill Lynch, I was involved in kind of women in leadership initiatives, which I really appreciated. So one of the things I love is seeing women launch their businesses, women co-founding teams, women grow their businesses, women raise capital. So that's one community I'm particularly passionate about.
And are you seeing, certainly in the Australian market, is there been any change in the amount of females that you're coming across that are raising capital, starting their own business?
Yes, and the statistics bear that out, which is great. So women are starting businesses in greater numbers and succeeding. One area where there's still a significant difference in gender is on capital. So in terms of starting businesses, there are more and more women doing it. In terms of scaling businesses and raising capital, particularly venture capital, so from the venture capital firms, there's a significant difference between males and females. So, but, there's a lot of conversation about it and there's a lot of change. So I'm seeing it as a disparity, but a disparity that's being rapidly fixed, particularly as women are raising capital and then succeeding really well.
And the last section is the action section. So this is where you can give some valuable tips to the BLG listeners. So the first question is personal productivity. So what's your number one personal productivity tip?
I think it's mental clarity. It's around taking the time you need, and often that can be short snippets during the day, to think what's really important and why. What do I need to get done? How do I need to do it? And also making time for the big goals and projects as well as just the urgent things. So it would be, my number one productivity tip would be around kind of mental discipline and mental strength.
And apps. What are some of the apps that you use on your phone? Might be on your home screen or on a desktop or a laptop.
Yeah. So one kind of apps or one set of tools that we use really well at LegalVision is the Google Suite. So, Google Email, Google Calendar, Google Drive. So all of our documents are accessed online from any device anywhere in the world. Google Sheets, Google Documents. It allows, for one, it allows incredibly flexible working because you can work anywhere that's online. And also it allows for instant collaboration. I mean, the time it saves to collaborate on a document with a client together rather than going backwards and forwards, it's so much quicker and so much more transparent. And the same with internal documents as well. So the Google Suite as a flexibility tool and a transparency tool I'm a real fan of. That's probably one of the main ones. I also try not to be addicted to my phone.
Yes.
So I think probably I should put a vote in for trying to get some non-screen time each day as well, if possible.
Yes, as I tell people, airline or airplane mode is not only for being in the air. You can actually use it when you're on the ground as well. And I know you're a prolific reader and learner, as you said before. What's a current book or a current podcast that you're reading at the moment that you'd recommend?
And look, it's a really good question, Paul, because I read kind of equally on legal, the actual law, what's happening in certain areas of law, and also around entrepreneurship and innovation. I actually read quite widely rather than having any one or two particular favourites, but a couple that have really impacted me. The Lean Startup, Eric Ries, that approach of trying things, growth hacking, minimum viable product, that's a really different approach than a traditional legal approach. So that had quite an impact on me. And also the book Flow, and I'm going to have an attempt at saying Krishna Malali's surname. It's all about that fantastic feeling of doing something that's complex, but you're in the flow and you're really enjoying it, and it's very invigorating. And that kind of concept of flow is something I like to bring to our work. So that was another one that had quite an impact on me. How you could be doing, because basically rather than it being work or not work, if you're really enjoying what you're doing, you're in flow and it's very positive and purposeful.
Excellent. Well, we'll put the links to that and also the other things that you mentioned in the podcast, just for my own benefit, but I'm sure it's for the BLG listeners. When you consume so much content, what are you consuming on? Are you listening, following certain blogs or on certain devices? Like, how do you consume all of this content?
Look, reading and listening. So reading intermittently, particularly in the evenings, and listening when I'm driving.
Excellent. Yeah, well, that's certainly podcasting is my go-to. So I'm a prolific listener of podcasts, and I do like the fact that you can listen at the speed that you're comfortable with. So I'm at 2.5 times speed for most people. I certainly recommend BLG listeners listen to me at least 2 times because I do talk a little slow.
Interesting.
But then I can, what I can now listen to versus read, it's just so much easier. And I've got a bit of a health condition, which means that I can, if I read, I'll just fall instantly asleep. So I find listening to audio is a lot better. But
yes.
yeah.
Oh, I'm interested in that as a separate issue too. That's really interesting.
And look, you've had a brilliant career in corporate. You've at the pinnacle of what's happening in startups here in Australia. What's some parting advice from all of your experience that you could leave the BLG audience?
I think it's understanding the complexity, the ups and downs, and that it will be slow to see results at the start. So just understanding that there is a lot to consider when you're starting a business, and being, on one hand, cognizant of the complexity, but on the other hand, being very focused on specific things. Like, I will build the scrappiest version of what I want to do and get it out there as my minimum viable product to test it. I will work out what it takes to get my first 100 clients. Some very clear milestones, while being aware that you are operating in an uncertain and complex world, and that's just how it is. So you don't have to have everything right. You don't have to know all the answers. But kind of cognizant of complexity while having very clear milestones to keep you focused would be my advice.
And how can people find out more about you?
Look, very welcome. Please come have a look at our website. We're at legalvision.com.au, and we have literally thousands of free legal articles about points of law, but also increasingly articles on kind of online marketing, scaling your business, some really practical advice as well. I'm on LinkedIn. That's just my name on LinkedIn. And I'm also on Twitter, and that's at Ursula Hogben.
Excellent. Well, I'll put the links there in the show notes. But Ursula, it's been fantastic listening to your story today. I really appreciate you sharing it with the BLG audience. And we wish you all the success in the future.
No, absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, Paul. And thank you very much for the community that you've built as well. It's really, you're bringing some really like-minded people together and hopefully helping us all inspire each other. So thank you very much for that.
Oh, brilliant. My pleasure. Thanks, Ursula.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Build, Live, Give show. If you found this show helpful, please share it with others so we can build businesses, live great lives, and give back to the community. If you would like to join the BLG community, go to our website, www.buildlivegive.com. Until next time, thanks for listening.